folks, Neo here. I'm going to do a short video on my pre-morning routine. It is currently 9:19 a.m. East Coast time, 11 minutes before the market opens. Alright, so what we have here is a view of the futures index. I will go ahead and take a look at the NASDAQ 100 and see where we are heading currently in the 10-minute time frames. It is a pretty steady downtrend, as you can see. No need for that. Don't need to go sideways. All right. So essentially what the futures is telling me is that there's been a large movement overnight in the NASDAQ 100, which means that the day should be a downward trend. All right, so we're going to switch over to Webull app now. Going to take a look at the QQQ Top 100, which is the NASDAQ Top 100 stocks. These are pretty much so categorized in my watch list as their heaviest weight in the QQQ ETF. All right, so if we went over to QQQ and we go into the fund, we can scroll down and see asset allocations. You'll see where QQQ rates as far as how much they have invested in the current ETF. These are the top 1 or the top 10 holdings. I generally try to keep these updated as close as possible. Apple and Microsoft are back and forth between the two as far as their heavy weight, but essentially if you look at this section here where it says weight, all right, the weight basically tells how many or what percentage they have in the ETF of this particular stock. So if you have a whole pie graph of 100% and then they were to start buying up stock and you start adding the portion of the pie there, that's essentially what they mean by the weight. I'm not the best educator in the world. I struggle in that, even though I enjoy trying to educate people. I really struggle in getting my understanding and my thoughts, conveyed to the individual person. But anyways, so essentially Microsoft and Apple are the heaviest, with 24% of the entire ETF, actually technically 25%, 25.909% of the entire ETF is weighted in these two stocks. So everything else is divided amongst that. So essentially what that will tell you is that when these two stocks, Apple and Microsoft, move the most, okay, depending on how much movement they're making will really affect the ETF in the NASDAQ top 100 stocks for QQQ. They really are telltale signs of what's really going on with this stock. This is what I like about QQQ because to me it's easy to read when you understand what you're reading to begin with. All right, let's toggle back and forth here. There we go. All right, so now I look at this. This is the way I have the setup. I look at the price right here. All right, we'll get back to the price. That's the price of each stock, and then underneath there is the percentage of movement in the pre-market. When this opens up at 9:30, obviously all this will change, and instead of being the pre-market movement, that will actually be the current movement in percentage form. So at a quick glance, I can look at the QQQ Top 100, preferably the top 10 right here, and you will be able to see a direction. I can look down and see 69, 21, 45, and then 101, 87, 133, all negative, right? In my head, real quickly, I know that I'm over actually 3% at that point, or right at 3%. Yeah, it's over 3%. So there's 3% negative movement in the top 10, and I can see the top three green spaces here: Google, both alphabets basically, and Pepsi. All right, so in the top 10 we have greater than 3 negative movement, and we have a reverse in that is greater than 2 in positive movement. So there's a negative movement of -1 right there. Anyone know anything about counting cards by chance in Vegas? It's kind of like that when you're counting the deck of blackjack, when you start seeing your negatives and your positives. Anyways, without doing a whole spiel on that, this kind of gives me a direction and an understanding of movement. And it's real fluid. It's constantly changing. It's rapidly changing, especially at this time in the morning. So essentially what I'm looking at now is where I'm going to play. All right, so more than likely I will play QQQ today because it seems to have a great movement, though there is the possibility of Tesla because Tesla is severely down. What's going to happen at market is all of these are going to try to start balancing themselves. Basically, you know, a lot of the buying and selling, the increase and decrease in the percentage of the portfolio, which is going to cause QQQ to rapidly go up and down. And I would like to try and capitalize real quickly on that up and down movement in a quick scalp. Okay, so looking at that, looking at the understanding that the stock market has a general flow down coming out of futures into the open market this morning, I will go ahead and form a hypothesis that more than likely we are going to move downwards in QQQ. So now I'm going to look at the daily chart. Okay, we look at the daily chart. I start counting the days. 1, 2, 3, 4 green days, starting right here. I start from the gap up. I start counting the green days. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if we're moving downwards in the market today, you see that there's a 4-day movement, then there's a 2-day movement, then there's 2 3-day movements, or excuse me, 3 3-day movements that are all green, okay, and then a 2-day movement so far. All right, so then I look at the downward movements, okay, same spots we're starting at right after the gap up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. These start to form patterns. So knowing what I know about the futures, knowing what I know about everything that's going on in the market, including, you know, data release, you know, moments like Powell speeches, FOMC rate increases, job reports, CPI data, all of these things I take into account early in the mornings and during the week. I actually believe that today, because the market has moved downwards, that we will have a red day. Not so much as what everyone would say, like a massive red day. I actually will put this at a flat trading day, meaning that it's going to trade between the range of one positive and 1 negative, so one green and 1 red percent. So it's not going to do a lot of movement, and some people can say, well, you know, anybody can predict that. Well, that's true. Anybody can make that prediction, and, you know, you're going to be right 50% of the time. Either you're going to be right or you're going to be wrong. So at the end of the day, it's all about perspective, I guess you could say. But from my perspective, I look for this to move immediately down around 0.95%. Then it's going to bounce right off of that and go back up for the day. So my first instinct is going to try and pick up a movement of the downward momentum. I'm going to wait and I'm going to watch for this movement, and I'm going to try and capitalize a quick scalp on this. All right, so the next video will be focused on that, and we will open up at the 9:30. All right. hope you guys understand what I'm saying. If you don't, questions, comments, like, subscribe, share, and we can build this and educate one another.